where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin' Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marissa and I'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. And a warning that this episode of Doin' Time may contain audio images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have died and discussion of deaths in custody. First up on the show, we are going to be speaking with Ian Rintel from the Refugee Action Coalition, and it is going to be a continuation of a discussion that began last week and is indeed ongoing on the Doin' Time show about draconian detention and looking at asylum seekers and refugees. Last week we actually interviewed some wonderful Iranian activists, these lovely women who came on the show. They're asylum seekers and they were protesting outside Claire O'Neill's Home Affairs Minister's office, which was closed for the duration of the protest in Oakley. And that protest is continuing this week, and I'm hoping that other shows on 3CR will have coverage of this. I'm sure they will. And so we'll be speaking with Ian about maybe a brief look at this, but also looking at Neil Patter, who wins visa, and it's good news. We'll be looking at him. Neil Patter and his family have been granted permanent visas, and it's welcome news. And they've been waiting since August 2012. However, even though that's doubly welcome, it came right at the end of Neil's 1,000-kilometre walk from Ballarat to Prime Minister Albanese's electorate in Sydney. But we'll be looking at other things as well, because despite the fact that Neil Patter's permanent visa has been granted, it raises the question, as the permanent visa is granted to the Belieber family as well, what is the future of the other asylum seekers, including people that are in the fast-track system? So we'll be looking at that. Ian will explain all this. And then after that, we will speak with Auntie Jill, who is the Gallagher, who is the CEO of that show, and we'll be speaking with her just a little bit about health workers, a little bit about the referendum, and just getting an update about what's been going on. And so now we'll be speaking with Ian.
You might have heard about the Community Radio Plus app, but it's only when you start using it that you'll wonder how you lived without it.
You can listen to us wherever you are, at home, work, driving,
on public transport, gardening, protesting, or even in the bath.
Just search Community Radio Plus wherever you get your apps.
And you're back with the Doin' Time show, and we will now begin our first extended interview with Ian Rintel from the Refugee Action Coalition. And what I didn't say in my introduction and what I will say now is that we will also hopefully be speaking with Ian about Border Force and about Pazulo, who has been a ruthless advocate of the most brutal anti-refugee border protection policies. Hello, Ian. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Marissa.
Lovely to have you, Ian.
Okay, no, thanks for having me.
It makes me tired, really, discussing this week after week.
Yeah, yes, it is. It just grinds on and on and on. But anyway, we'll keep talking about it as long as there are victims of out there still suffering under anti-refugee policies.
Absolutely. Shall we start off by talking about Neil and what's happened there?
No, sure, yeah, because Neil's walk and his getting the visa is really the background of the Iranian women protesting outside Claire O'Neill's office, actually, because I think when Neil set off, to do the 1,000-kilometre walk between Ballarat and Albanese's office in Marrickville in Sydney, but he got in that process just before he arrived in Sydney. Actually, he was granted the permanent visa, and I think for many people who had followed the walk, and he'd got a lot of publicity, along the way. But of course, many asylum seekers who are in the same situation. Neil had arrived in Australia in 2012 and was, like so many others, rejected, was existing on bridging visa and then no visa at all. He had a child who was born in Australia and turned 10, so he had an Australian citizen child, but the rest of the family was surviving on no visa at all. So many people, including those people who were rejected under fast track, like most of the people outside Claire O'Neill's office, were looking at what was happening with Neil and glad to see the publicity that he was getting for the the general plight of himself and the other 10,000 like him. So when he got the visa, of course, that also excited a lot of people about the possibilities of that protest works, that Neil's visa and the success of Neil's walk has, I think, has certainly prompted other people, including the Iranians in particular. It's not just Iranians, but most of the Iranians are outside Claire O'Neill's office at the moment, and it's had a further spin-off. There's now actually about 20 Tamil and Iranian women who are walking from working for Andrew Giles' office. They're 3 or 4 days into the walk now, walking from Giles' office to Canberra. So Neil's walk has really prompted a lot of attention, a lot of interest, a lot of concern, and has inspired asylum seekers to start walking, start protesting, starting really thinking that it really is possible to put their issues in front of the wider public and in front of the government in particular.
I'm so glad that the connection was made. I made that connection with last week's protest because it was important.
Yes. I mean, and I think my feeling at the moment is that the protests outside Claire O'Neill's office may well go longer than this coming week as well. I mean, people are very angry and concerned, and we've had a couple of big protests last year, outside of the Parliament House, and there were many hundreds of asylum seekers who'd come from around Australia to make their situation very obvious to the Labor government. But I think the fact that we saw this in August, we had the Labor's national conference, but there was nothing coming out of that. All the promises that were made, all the indications that were made that perhaps there was going to be some measure taken by Labor to review all the people who were rejected under fast track, that something was going to come out of the Labor conference, and nothing did. So I think there's a few things I think that have come to a head. People are just so very disappointed, dejected, but they really at the end of their tether, of having survived for so long on nothing, expectations that Labor might do something. They didn't when they had the opportunity at the conference. And then, as I said, Neil's walk indicated that perhaps protest is the way to get results. And that's the point I made in the press release. It's tragic when you look at it that the Labor's been in power since May 2022. The Biloela family have got a visa. Neil's family have got visas, but there are 10,000 other people that the government could so easily grant visas to. They're quite happy to, see them, work for next to nothing during COVID. They talk on one side of their mouth about the vulnerability of people, and in the migration system, but on the other side of the mouth, they've got 10,000 people who, are an underclass that they're doing nothing about.
Absolutely, and in fact, at the beginning of the show, I talk about that and also explain that what is the future of the 10,000 others rejected under fast track or still waiting for a decision.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they have no future. That's and for many of them, like with Neil, that now has got a child who was born in Australia, turned 10. He's been here since 2012. So they're talking about 11 going on 12 years. And what is there was no future for him, which is why he set out, on the walk. But for 10,000 others, there still is no future. And I think it's just one of those glaring anomalies that's just gone on too long. It's pushed people too far. They've worked, they've paid their taxes, they've now got kids that who've had to get special permission if they've gone to public schools. They've had to get permission because otherwise they'd be charged as international students to be able to even go to high school. They can't go to university. People on no visas, no right to study. People who are on bridging visas, even if they do have the right to study, and many of them don't, then they're charged as international students, which effectively precludes them from study in any case. You've got people who've spent 10 years here working in construction, warehouse, hospitality, retail, all the things that mattered under COVID, but they're not allowed. They can't study. They're not allowed to go to TAFE. They're not allowed to improve the skills that they had when they come here. So you've got 10,000 people that the government is simply just turned a blind eye to, and that's what makes the success of the Biloela family and Neil's a big success on the one hand. It's a big win, but it simply highlights the lack of anything for the other 10,000. And to add insult to injury, Labor recognises that the fast track was flawed. The policy it had going into the conference, in August, recognised that the fast track system was flawed and should be abolished, but they haven't abolished the fast track system. People are still being processed under the fast track system, and if there are people who came by boat tomorrow, they would be processed under the fast track system because the government hasn't changed it.
It's discrimination, and it's cruel and inhumane. And in fact, I was speaking actually to a young woman last week on the show who joined Maggie, who's an older Iranian woman, also with a teenage daughter, and they were speaking about how, the girls wanted to go to university and they can't.
No, that's right. That's right. It has enormous implications, and doesn't just stop with the fact that they're, on bridging visas that have to be renewed every 6 months with the things that has for job or for rental. But the kids now, the parents who came here, fleeing persecution, are now seeing a situation in which their children that they had such high hopes for when they came here are being now quite savagely discriminated against.
So rallies were planned in three capital cities, or are being planned, in three capital cities in October to take the fight to Labor and demand justice.
Yes, well, and there are going to be other things, I think, happening in between too, Marissa. But the Sydney's called, I think, on the 29th.
That's right.
In Sydney and in Brisbane on the 29th. There's an early one in Melbourne, and on the 8th. I think it's the 8th in Melbourne. So again, I think the wider community is not anywhere near sufficiently aware of what the Labor government isn't doing. For the 10,000, there's a lot of push from the refugee communities now to agitate over their demands, and so I think, as I said, we've got the women's walk for freedom happening, and they'll get to Canberra in mid-October, and hopefully there'll be a lot of publicity. That'll generate a lot of publicity. In the same way Neil's walk did, ongoing protest at Claire O'Neill's office, and we'll have the opportunity for the capital cities to join in that protest and push the Labor Party.
Can you comment on border policy and Pizzulo?
Yes, well, I guess that's just broken overnight. It's quite extraordinary, that the text messages between Mike Pizzulo, who's the head of Department of Home Affairs, is actually the Department Secretary, and Scott Briggs, who was a crony of Scott Morrison, and a Liberal Party power broker, and it's extraordinary the messages that have gone between Pizzulo and Briggs, just revealing the complete fiction that Pizzulo was some kind of neutral, apolitical, head of department, giving fair and sort of unbiased, impartial advice, to the government. He's effectively operated as an urger inside the Liberal Party, putting forward proposals, slagging off different Liberal Party ministers, insisting he wanted to see a right winger take control of of Home Affairs. Quite happy to have Peter Dutton back. So there's been quite extraordinary revelations, I think, and he's now been stood aside, or the Labor Party asked him to stand aside. I mean, he should be sacked. Hopefully his temporary standing down is just a prelude to him actually being sacked. But I think it's exposed, the realities. This guy has been an architect of Border Force. He's been an architect of the militarisation of Operation Sovereign Borders, the militarisation of the immigration detention centres. He's been an attack dog for every bit of rotten anti-refugee policy that we've seen coming out of Canberra.
Ian, thank you so much for making listeners aware of this. It's really important to have a look at all that background. And I'm actually going to be speaking pretty soon with Auntie Jill Gallagher from VATCHO, looking at health and looking at other things with First Nations people. Thank you so much, Ian. Any final comments?
No, that's fine. That's fine, Marissa. The struggle of the First Nations and the Australians are always linked together. So best luck for that one.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ian. Talk soon.
Okay. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Do you have a few children's picture books or footy boots that your kids have outgrown but want to find them a loving home? Well, drop them in at 3CR and put them in the Books and Boots bin. Books and Boots regularly sends pre-loved children's picture books and sports footwear to remote and regional First Nations communities and children across the country. Contact us at Books and Boots or go to the website www.booksandboots.org.au. We love a good book.
Back with the Doing Time show. In case people have just tuned in, this is 3CR Community Radio, and we're going to be speaking pretty soon with Jill from VATCHO, Jill Gallagher, and we're going to be talking to her about a number of things. We spoke with her a couple of weeks ago about the age pension and about the cruel decision of the courts not to grant Aboriginal people more of an age, for them to have the pension younger, given that there's been a high life expectancy. And I really enjoyed talking to Jill so much about lots of things, and I'm having her back now because I wanted to talk to her about health workers, Aboriginal health. And before I do speak with Jill, though, I want to just explain yet again that the Doing Time show is a place where people feel safe to come and talk about their concerns, and that includes everybody. But I do have a very special place for First Nations people, and we do a lot of work on Aboriginal deaths in custody. And there has been a lot of coverage about the referendum, and as much as possible, I have stuck to the brief of the show, looking at human rights and looking at deaths in custody and also health. Hi, Jill. Welcome to the program.
Hi, and thank you for having me back.
It's really great having you back, and I am having you back because you've done a lot of grassroots work, and I know that there's been a lot of media conferences, and you've had the Europe report coming out, haven't you, as well?
Yep.
I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about health workers and how they believe that the voice will have a positive impact on the health and well-being of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
Okay. Well, as you know, that we had a launch the Sunday just gone, yesterday, at CoHealth, and it was a launch celebrating a survey that Batcho did right across Australia with health workers, and that includes nurses, doctors, Cancer Council Victoria. It included a whole range of health professionals who helped us out and filled out the survey, because we wanted to understand whether health clinicians were aware, one, of the voice, and two, do they believe it would have better health outcomes if we had empowerment in this country. The Voice survey, 80% of Aboriginal workers, health workers, increased involvement in Aboriginal health policy. It was a great survey and we got a good feedback, and we had on Sunday health professionals stand behind Batcho, not so much stand behind us, stand with us in supporting a yes vote to the upcoming referendum, so we as First Nations people can have a voice to Parliament and have it enshrined in the Constitution. Now, Marissa, I'm not sure whether you want me to talk about specific health benefits.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. So there are health benefits for us as a peoples in this country. I mean, we've been disempowered for the past 230 years, and we are the original people of this country. We all know that. That's not fiction, that's fact. And so disempowerment, when you look at how why Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have these appalling rates of, and you mentioned one, over-representation in the justice system, over-representation in the child protection system for our children. We're the worst on the planet. The life expectancy gap that still exists between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal, even though we signed the original Close the Gap statement of intent back in 2008, nothing's improved. So by having this voice, it does two things. It actually holds governments accountable for better outcomes. Now, you spoke earlier about deaths in custody. We know 32 years ago that we had a Royal Commission, and a lot of money was spent on doing this Royal Commission, by the way. Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. But it went nowhere. No one implemented that report and the recommendations in that report. And we didn't have a mechanism that could truly hold government accountable to, well, why wasn't it implemented? And why are we still seeing Aboriginal people in prisons, and I might add, in prisons for crimes of poverty? Why are they still dying in prison? Why are our people still dying in prison? So there are health benefits that come out of that because we can hold governments accountable. And this voice, this is the first time that we've ever had a voice to Parliament. Even ATSIC, when it was around, it reported to one minister in the whole of Parliament. But this is a different ask. This is an ask that we have a voice to Parliament. It speaks at their table, the Parliament table. So it has humongous health and well-being outcomes, not just holding government accountable. So why aren't we closing that light? Even today, we know all the efforts that we've put in to try and close that gap. Why isn't it closing still today? And so this voice can say, well, why isn't it? What are we doing wrong? What do we need to change? Do we need to tweak this? And it's not just holding governments accountable, you know. That's the important thing. There are humongous benefits, but can you imagine the benefit of being, one, recognised in the Constitution as the First Peoples, and two, being listened to by governments about matters that affect us as the First Peoples of this country? Can you imagine the power in that alone? The power of hope?
Do you know, and this is something that I don't think the mainstream media covers very much, Jill.
Yeah.
What do you think it would look like? I mean, I've interviewed elders that have said no to the referendum and yes to the referendum.
Yes.
And I don't actually discriminate. I like to put it all together and have unity with everybody.
Yep.
Rather than having people on one side saying yes and people on one side saying no.
Would love that too.
You know, don't you think we need to have unity, Auntie? You know, we need to sit down at the table and talk about what's happening to the mothers, what's happening to the families, people like, sorry to mention her name, but, you know, Veronica Nelson, you know, Auntie Tanya, all those.
Yes.
And, you know, what the mainstream media hasn't tackled is what can we do? What's that going to look like when, I mean, if it's yes and there's a referendum, say someone dies in custody, how can that better First Nations people? What would that look like, the plan?
Well, that's what we haven't worked out yet. You know, what we and understandably, because it's going to take a bit of time to work out. I mean, this voice is not going to talk on behalf of Aboriginal people as individuals or as individual communities. What this voice is going to do is talk on behalf of the collective needs that we're all facing.
Correct.
Every state and territory faces Aboriginal deaths in custody, even still today. Every state and territory, we're still trying to close that life expectancy gap. Our children are still taken away at alarming rates in every state and territory. You know, we hear some of our own mobs saying, well, that voice doesn't speak for me. Well, no, it doesn't speak for Jill Gallagher either, but it speaks for the collective need of our communities. And hold governments accountable. So that's yet to be worked out. I mean, I would see that this is only my view, by the way. Yep. But I would imagine that it would work like a productivity commission. It would be an Aboriginal independent productivity commission that has resources to, one, evaluate and monitor and have access to data that government has access to. It would actually be able to say, well, these are the targets we need to set and this is what we need to. So, you know, it's a long, it's hard to articulate in such a short a time what this would look like. But just imagine, I'm assuming everyone knows what a productivity commission does. And that is to look at and hold governments accountable for where they're failing. Well, this one too, but when you look at the mainstream Productivity Commission, how many times has it dealt with Aboriginal issues? Very few times. But this voice will have different standing and it will have different access to Parliament. So I think that's the power of it.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, and then, of course, and we did touch on this last time we spoke about, of course, there's treaty And that would be, according to the Voice, that would be a state treaty, wouldn't it?
Well, it depends. Of course it would. You wouldn't have a national treaty. Well, you might have what we're going to do here in Victoria. What we've ended up with is really good. So we're going to have some statewide asks, whether you call that a statewide treaty. But I need to reinforce that no one's private property is under threat in any way, shape or form. That's not what we're about.
Talk to me about that. Yeah, that's something that I get asked time and time again. And as I said, this show is really about talking about what concerns First Nations people, but we have to discuss the referendum. We can't leave it out. Tell me about this private property concept. Talk to me.
Well, you know, when Native Title Act was first came in, you had the media out there saying, "Oh, lock up your cattle and lock up your private lands. It's under threat." And that became a bit of a scare campaign. And it actually did a fair bit of damage. But, you know, native title's been around a bit. Treaty will kick off here for the first time ever in this country. And I can guarantee you private land is not on the agenda in Victoria, and nor will it be at a national level. You know, you talk about human rights. Human rights belongs to every human, no matter whether you're black or whether you're white. So that would be breaching their human rights if we try to take their property. And nor do we want to. So that's not what treaties are about, is infringing on other humans' rights. What treaty is about is acknowledging, and what the Voice is about is acknowledging that we are the first peoples of this country, and we need to be recognised in the Constitution as that, and we also need to have that voice to Parliament. That's how we're going to make change.
It's interesting, and I think I may have mentioned it on this show some weeks ago now, but I actually overheard a conversation down at the local shopping centre between two men, and one of them was saying, Aboriginal people, when they had the right to vote and now they want a referendum, I can't believe it.
You know, I heard Noel Pearson give a talk the other day here in Melbourne, and he the way he couched his talk was really quite amazing. He gave facts, but at the end he talked about how, you know, Australia is a multicultural country. We have a lot of Greek communities that have migrated here, Italians. We have a lot of Muslims, and you see them in the landscape. And he said, but, you know, those people have migrated here and we welcome them because having a multicultural society is good for everyone. And yet they have two homes, you know. They have Australia that they now call home, but they still have their mother country that they often talk about. And I heard someone in my office today talk about they want to go home to their country, which is Italy. And that's good, but they've got two homes. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people only have one.
Yeah.
And that's this country. This is our home. We don't have another home to go to.
Although some Italian people are quite displaced because they had to leave everything behind and everything's gone.
Yes, of course, I understand that, but they still have a country that they call Italy.
Yes,
is where where their culture comes from and where their roots come from.
True, but Aboriginal people are refugees in their own country.
But, well, you can say that, yeah, but, you know, all we want is that recognition. We're not saying we're any more important than any other culture or any other human being in this country, but we're saying that we've had 230 years of crimes against humanity committed on our communities, and our human rights were breached. For 230 years, our human rights have been breached. we now want to take our rightful place in this country.
A thing that's really concerned me while this referendum's been happening, and I'll be honest with you, I can't wait till it's over.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be honest. I feel like I have to be extremely careful when I'm on this show because there are many, many topics that we look at, and I feel like I have to include all viewpoints.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really concerned me is the way that Aboriginal communities now, a lot of them are so divided. How can we stop that?
Well, I actually don't think we can. We have Aboriginal people who don't trust governments. And by the way, I would say that would be the majority of Aboriginal people. But there are some who are also realistic and know that how we need to move forward in a modern world. I don't think we're divided. I think we have different points of view, and that's quite healthy.
Yeah.
To have that, to have that debate, have that discussion, and I haven't seen nasty discussions from our mobs. By the way, I've only seen nasty discussions from non-Aboriginal communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
and I'm glad you've made me feel better. I'm really glad that we're able to draw attention to that because I just think that there has been some division. I'm not saying that they're nasty, but there's been a little bit of disunity there and a bit of improvement.
There's different opinions.
Mm.
And surely we're allowed to have different opinions.
Of course.
Yeah, so there goes. Yeah.
No, I've just heard elders commenting about it, Jill. That's
yes,
all.
No, I agree. There are some of our own mob, elders and young people, who have different opinions. But I always think 80% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people support this. So we've got we've got to go with what the majority want. Yeah. And no one's come up with another way forward for us. I mean, we can't continue to accept those appalling statistics, can we?
No, I don't accept it.
We have to try something, don't we?
Absolutely. In particular now, because there are the white supremacists and the fascists are coming out now because of the economy.
And we got to, exactly right. And so we've got to be careful too, and we've got to protect ourselves. But this voice is not going to do any damage to anyone. I don't know why people are so up in arms. We will not, as Aboriginal people, ever cede our sovereignty unless we sign a document that says we have.
Mm.
And I don't know of any Aboriginal person that's ever done that. The fears in our communities, that mistrust, fear of ceding our sovereignty, we've never done it, and we never will cede our sovereignty. Never.
That's not going to compromise the sovereignty, surely.
No, it's not. No, under no circumstances.
Because sovereignty has never been ceded.
Exactly right. And the same with if we start seeing treaties being signed here in Victoria, which we will, that even doesn't cede your sovereignty.
That's right.
So, but it's that scaremongering, it's, some of our people have just got so much trauma.
Yes.
And so much mistrust. And then there's also some of our people who generally don't think this is the right way to go because it's got no power. But I often believe that you don't have to have power to make change. You just have to sit around the powers table to make that change, and that's the voice.
Well, you know what? It's a small thing, but it may turn into a big thing. We don't know. We actually don't know.
Yes. No. No, we don't.
I'm so glad. What was that?
I said, no, we don't.
I'm so glad that I've had you back on the show. I've just really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know if there's any other comments you wanted to make before we finish.
Look, there's not a lot of comments. I just want to talk to our people out there, our community. You know, we're not going to lose anything here. We've got to try something different because whatever we're doing now is not working. And, you know, I really think this voice will make a difference. And we've got to start having faith in Aboriginal leaders too. You know, Aboriginal leaders right across this continent wouldn't intentionally go out and hurt us as Aboriginal people. So, you know, we're doing our best to come up with ideas, and this is the one that many people, Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders, fed into. So get on board, mob, and help us out.
Actually, there is one more thing I wanted to talk to you about, Jill. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
And it's something that I really wanted to know about, and listeners too. I've spoken to some elders that have said no to the voice, and one of the things that they've said is that there's been not enough consultation with Aboriginal leaders or with all the elders in the clans. What do you think about that?
Well, can I say that'll happen. The consultation on what it looks like will happen in designing it, and so this is where we can say what we want our voice to look like. That's why we haven't designed it. That's why you haven't got the detail.
Not yet.
Not yet, but that's to come. We've just got to get a successful referendum. And so elders will be consulted. Communities will be consulted. Right across Australia, not just in Canberra.
What I would like to see is justice and to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody and to build the movement to stop Aboriginal deaths in custody.
Yes, me too. I'm totally with you there, 100%. 100%. And the way we do that is we need to make change to systems. When you look at the correctional system here in Victoria, it's pretty prehistoric. And I would say across the board. So we've got to change the system and the way people perceive us as Aboriginal people. We've got a lot to offer. We've got 65,000 years of wisdom and 65,000 years plus caring for this amazing country that now belongs to us all. We can bring that wisdom to the table. We know the solutions. We know what we need to do. We just now need to be listened to. In Parliament, you can't say the Aboriginal people, no disrespect to those Aboriginal people who are currently in Parliament, but they are bound by their party politics. They try, but this voice is independent of party politics. We don't want to be in the system that we're trying to change, because if you're a part of it, then it's harder to change. But we want to still be outside the system, looking in and saying this is what needs to happen.
But the government doesn't have to listen, do they?
No, they don't have to listen, but it would be pretty shameful if they didn't. And that would be because the world is watching what's happening in Australia. The world is watching. They over in New York, they actually had Australians over there protesting for yes. The whole world is watching what Australia does for the first people of this country.
I think we've got the worst human rights track record, actually.
Oh, of course we have. And so this is this is Australia's chance to be proud of their ancient culture. Like the Greeks are very proud of their ancient cultures, and so are the Italians, very proud of their ancient culture. So are we. But all Australians should be proud of it. And we need a standing, we need a footprint on the international platform as well, not just within Australia. So you can shame them. You can shame them into, if they're not going to listen to our voice,
yes,
then that's where the shame factor comes in. This is where, you can really put the pressure on. It's like any other political party, so to speak, where they can put pressure on, they can lobby, and that's what we can do.
Absolutely. Jill, it's been great having you on the show, and I've so enjoyed your company, and I'm hoping I can have you back after the referendum.
I'd love to.
Thanks so much, Auntie.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Rest up.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Every form of discrimination that exists in our community is magnified and utilised by prisons to cause greater division and disarm solidarity.
We've got to really put a lens of perspective on this and know that there are children being incarcerated as young as 10 years old.
Police and prisons, they're doing exactly what this colony wants them to.
Who do we defund? And who else? Prisons! Pull them down! Yay!
3CR. Stay tuned. Stay radical.
.3CR needs members to survive. By becoming a subscriber, you're helping us to remain fiercely independent and free of commercials and corporate influence.
Are you a paid-up subscriber? It's just $40 concession, $80 waged, $150 for a band or organisation, and $300 solidarity.
Great value for 24/7 community-owned and community-controlled media. Please become a subscriber member today.
Call the station on 03 9419 8377 or sign up online at 3cr.org.au/subscribe.
October is the month for all your country and Americana good times. Asleep at the Wheel, Thornbury Theatre with Summer Dean on the 13th. Melissa Carper, Brunswick Ballroom on the 16th. Willie Watson at the Mimo Music Hall on the 19th. Thornbury Theatre on the 20th. And Meenian Town Hall on the 21st. Jenny Don't and the Spurs, the Pink Stones and the Burrs Band play Brunswick Ballroom on the 12th and the Barwon Club Geelong on the 13th. All this and more this October. Love Police supports 3CR.
Just wherever that wind does blow.
We know you love listening to 3CR, but we also know that many of you haven't downloaded the Community Radio Plus app yet.
The app lets you tune in anywhere and share the station with your friends.
So, show the love and share the love and search Community Radio Plus wherever you get your apps.
And you're back with the Doing Time show, and we're nearing the end. And I wanted to actually thank both Ian Rintel and also Arnie Gill for coming onto the show today. And we made some really important connections with Ian in regards to the future of the 10,000 asylum seekers rejected under fast track or still waiting for a decision. And that connection was made also from last week's interview, where I interviewed some women, female asylum seekers, who were all together at a protest at Atherton Road in Oakley. And there's lots of events coming up, so watch this space. Have a look at the Refugee Action Collective in Victoria. Go on their website, attend some of their meetings. There are meetings every week, every Monday night. And it's really important to draw attention to listeners that Labor recognises the flaws in the fast-track system introduced under Morrison, but has done absolutely nothing to rectify those flaws despite policy, and the fast-track system has not been abolished, nor has Labor provided any systematic way to review the flawed decisions. And so, whilst it's really welcome news, we do need to keep up the fight to grant rights to asylum seekers and refugees. And then we interviewed Jill Gallagher, who from VATCHO, and she talked a lot about business in community, and we discussed a lot of detail about Aboriginal deaths in custody. And she talked about The Voice as being one strategy to be able to help people, Aboriginal people, First Nations people. So thank you so much to Ian and Jill. It's approximately 4:53, and we're going to be going out pretty soon with our theme song, Blackfellow, Whitefellow by the Rumpy Band. And stay tuned every Monday for the Doing Time show from 4 till 5. And it's goodbye from Marissa, and thank you once again to both of our guests. Oh, by the way, before I finish, I just wanted to announce that last song. And actually, I think it was the only song because our interviews were quite extended today and quite involved. But the song was actually called Sunrise, and it was by No Fixed Address. No Fixed Address played recently, I believe, at Gasometer in Collingwood, and I'm really upset because I miss them. But, you know, better luck next time. It's approximately 4:54, and I'm out of here. Stay tuned every Monday from 4 till 5 for the Doing Time show. Take care of each other. Bye.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.